Either one of two things happened last night. Either last night I was just really tired because I got up a little earlier yesterday, or I was really tired because that game put me to sleep last night. One of the two things happened, but all I know is that Monday night game was enough to put me down, and so last night I did not go live after the game like I usually do because I was very, very tired. So I went to bed, got up earlier this morning than I usually do, and now I'm ready to go through what I got right and wrong for week 11. And you know I always like to do this. Even if I'm a day late, I'm always going to go through what I got right and wrong because it's truly just what I believe every creator should do in fantasy football is address takes that they got right, takes they got wrong, because it's all about transparency, and I think it's the only way to move forward. So this is always what I do every single, usually Monday, but this time I'm going to do it on Tuesday night. Either way, knew I had to get this in. So if you appreciate the segment, make sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support, and sign up for fsroundup.com as well. So I want to start out with this. So over the last several weeks, I think a lot of us just in life, you've just got like certain guys in fantasy football or, just throughout your life, there's certain things that you just believe, and that's kind of what you believe, right? Like, it's kind of hard for most people to get off the idea of, like rice versus potatoes, right? Like, which carb do you like better? And if you believe one way and your body reacts to that way, then that's kind of what you believe in. And so when it came to like fantasy football, the entirety of the season, I had been really backing Kenneth Walker over Zach Charbonnet. Now, it started out the offseason, to be completely transparent with everybody, that this past offseason, heading into this season, I was like, I'm really big on Kenneth Walker for the entirety of the year because of X, Y, and Z. And those reasons were because the explosion of the player is really good. He's a good pass catcher when given the opportunity. And heading into the season, new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak was saying, yeah, we're going to use this guy pretty heavily. Like, he's going to be a massive part of this game plan this year. And so kind of watching things just go how they've gone this year, it's become increasingly clear that Kenneth Walker is in a split backfield. And that's just the way things have gone. I mean, if you go to the entirety of the season on the Seattle Seahawks running game, like, we can go through this right now on FS Roundup. Completely free numbers, by the way. Like, you'll see Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet pretty much the exact same on snap count. Kenneth has like 25 more rushing attempts than Zach Charbonnet, but it's the rushing touchdowns are in Sharp's favor. Bottom line being, this has been a split backfield. And so the whole reason I had with Kenneth Walker for going with him over the time is that, I think that Kenneth Walker is this explosive player who does have this big play upside that a lot of people aren't giving him credit for because we haven't seen it lately. But I did say last week, heading into that week, it was the last week that I was going to give him the nod in my rankings over Zach Charbonnet, and finally it paid off. My gosh, it took a long time, but it did pay off. And this is like something that I truly just believe in this personally. Like, stick with your gut. Stick with your gut, and I tell you guys this all the time. If you have a gut feeling and you disagree with me very heavily, well, guess what? A lot of times, all of you guys are right. Like, that, I can't say it any better than that. If I'm wrong, and the majority of all of you are like, dude, you're wrong, then you guys are right. And that's happened a lot. With Kenneth, though, I stuck with this because of the big play upside and his explosive capability, and it finally hit this past week. And Charbonnet was not worth that much. So that's my whole thing, is that moving forward, what you're going to continue to see is Charbonnet underneath Kenneth, maybe by a spot, maybe by more, in my running back rankings for the week and for the duration of the season, because of the fact that he's got the bigger play upside and he's not limited to end zone work with his fantasy upside. Kenneth did not get a red zone touchdown this past week. Like, that was it was a well broken off run for a good distance. I mean, that's what Kenneth can do when they finally release him. And maybe in future weeks, they'll continue to do that with the struggles of Sam Darnold kind of increasing against better teams. Now, here's something I got wrong. And I think with this one in particular, I think that a lot of times I rag on people in draft season for overdrafting players with tons of name value, right? Like, one of my big misses so far, and this is not what I got wrong, but just an example, like one of the big misses I've had this year was Patrick Mahomes. And it wasn't because I didn't think Mahomes had this in him. Like, obviously, the guy can be the quarterback one in fantasy on any given year. He's the best quarterback in the league. Although Josh Allen, man, that guy is something else. But Patrick Mahomes, man, like, it wasn't because I didn't believe that. It's just like the belief of what we saw over the past couple of years, which is guy hasn't been that good in fantasy. And on ESPN, you'd go and draft him in like the 5th round. And I was like, guys, this price is it's completely crazy. Like, this is out of left field for me. Why are people still drafting a player with name value that high because of name value? So that happens a lot. And a lot of times I'm right. But with this particular time, I'm inexplicably wrong. And honestly, I can't explain this one. Travis Kelce was one of my least favorite picks this year. And he was the cheapest he has been since, like, he was a rookie. I mean, this past year in the draft, he was very, very cheap for fantasy football drafts. And I drafted some of him in best ball formats, but I didn't draft any of him in any redraft leagues because, again, I hated the price. And that was my whole thing this year, was that it actually wasn't that. I believed that Travis Kelce, regardless of price, was going to fail in fantasy. Because my thing is that, first of all, this is a player who's gotten worse every year in fantasy since 2022. 2022 was Kelce's last good year in fantasy football. And ever since then, it's just been going downhill. And so watching what he had done in 2023 and in 2024, I was like, natural progression, he's just going to continue to go down. And, I mean, the guy's 36 years old. So I was like, there's just no way that he's a good player. Dude, Travis Kelce's been awesome for fantasy football. He makes me look dumb on a pretty much weekly basis because even still, like, I'm underranking Travis Kelce basically every week. I don't know, man. I mean, Travis Kelce, my thing with him is like, listen, I acknowledge it is nothing personal with Kelce. This is a Hall of Fame tight end. This is what probably I have I definitely personally like Gronk's playing style a little better. Like, Gronk was so physical, and I just loved Gronk because of that physicality. But Travis Kelce was every bit as good as Gronk was in his prime. So it's not a personal thing. Like, for me, it's more so like watching him play the last several years. I was just sitting there thinking, there's just no way he's going to be a good play in 2025. Like, how is it getting better in his mid-30s? And I think the same thing every time I watch the guy play. I mean, in big games especially, like this past week, that was the greatest example. Like, what he did against the Broncos defense, a defense that is excellent at rushing the passer, usually forcing a tight end to stay back and block. No, Travis Kelce had 13 targets in that game. Like, best fantasy player by far on the week for the Chiefs was Kelce. So I think I'm just like way off still on Travis Kelce. Like, I was wrong for the entirety of this season when it came to Travis Kelce, but it's deeper than that. I am wrong still to this day when it comes to Travis Kelce. So I'm very fascinated to kind of watch how the rest of the season goes for him and if he slows down at some point. But honestly, I don't know if he is. Like, he's just been playing really good. Maybe it's because he knows deep down it's his last year and he's just trying to get everything out of it. That's very possible. I mean, a lot of Hall of Fame players have great last years because they know, like, this is it. So that could be very much part of the equation right now and something I'm just really, really missing. Now, here's something I got right. And listen, I don't like to be right about this one. You know what I mean? Like, there's just certain things in life, right? Like, everyone knows certain people that keep things very under wraps, right? Like, let's say that you have a friend group of like 4 people, right? And let's say that, one of you is very, very open with your friend group about anything that's going on in your life. Doctor's appointment, Oh, I'm getting, my teeth pulled. I've got a lump on my back. Like, and people around you are thinking, why are you being so open about this? This feels a little weird that you're being so open about this. And then you've got the other types of people that like hold the cards really close to their vest when it comes to their personal life, right? Everybody knows those types of people in this world. And this is something that I've always said about Sean Payton, is that Sean Payton, he runs things like the mob in Denver. Like, nothing gets out to anybody. There is no media leaks about like, oh, this player is looking to get, the majority of the snap share. Like, Sean Payton, if anything, puts out disinformation to screw with opponents and screw with the media. That's what Sean Payton does. He's anything but transparent about what his weekly plans are for the offensive game plan. Like, he does not do that, and he never has, dating back to New Orleans. So I just knew heading into this particular week, there was a really, really strong chance that RJ Harvey would continue to be utilized in a committee, because all you have to do is look at the Denver Broncos and what they've done on offense with their running backs all year, and it would make complete sense. And that's exactly what happened. Now, the irony was the guy I predicted to be more involved wasn't involved at all. Like, Tyler Bidet did nothing for this team against the Chiefs. It was actually Jaleel McLaughlin. Now, the one thing that I will say is that RJ Harvey did play 38 snaps compared to McLaughlin's 8, but he got 7 opportunities on those 8 snaps. So my point is still alive, which is RJ Harvey, I said this last week, this is not the week to play him. Number one, it's against the Chiefs. That's a bad matchup already. And number two, this offense will continue to be weird. And I stand by that to this day for this week also. Like, Denver's on a bye week, so this week doesn't count. But the following week after that, they're going to play some weaker opponents. And I still believe that it is not going to be like the best RB2 play that you're going to want to make, because they're going to continue this really weird thing that Sean Payton has always done, which is be quiet with the media. And number two, he's going to play mind games with the media, if anything, and they're going to continue to run a 2 running back system. That's just is what it is. I mean, there's just no, debating it at this point. So RJ Harvey, man, I think that in the future, he does have that breakout room. But to me at this point, it's not really even close. I'd much rather prefer Travion, because I feel like we're here with the breakout. With RJ Harvey, I don't feel like that. And I feel like this is still a development thing that may not actually come to fruition. So that one I got right. Here's something I got wrong. I think a lot of times when I think about life analogies, right? I'm such a sports guy, and I've told people this who have asked me about it. My off-season sport is golf. I'm not a basketball guy. Just don't like the NBA. And I'm not a baseball guy either. My thing is golf. I love to golf during the off-season. I don't get to golf during the regular season of football because I'm just so busy pumping out content, building the business on FS Roundup, which, by the way, if you enjoy FS Roundup, please be a kind supporter and join us with the premium subscription. But my thing is golf. And so I always think of there's just a certain club in your bag, if you're a golfer, that you trust the most on any given week, right? For me, a lot of the times I've gotten really good with my driver over the last year or so. And so the driver to me was always the club I could trust for a solid stretch there. And the pitching wedge also for me is okay, if I'm within 150 yards, pitching wedge, I know I'm not going to fail with this one. Gap wedge as well. And so you just trust, you just grow to trust certain clubs in your bag to go hit a shot. And I think the same thing applies to fantasy football, which is that there's certain players you just trust to never put on your bench, right? Your high-priced draft picks, like Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Jackson Smith-Njigba, guys like that. You just don't put them on your bench. So I think that really what it comes down to is Lamar Jackson in week 11. Watching him play, it made so much sense when it was actually unfolding because the Browns' defense is strong. I mean, the Browns have a fantastic defense that they work with. And I highlighted this today on the defense rankings, which is this defense is excellent. And I have this, like, I've got this offense that can't move the ball with Cleveland, so I don't know how their defense will hold up against Baltimore. And so leading into the week last week, I had one particular person ask me, like, I can't remember exactly who it was. Maybe it was even Jacoby Brissett or Lamar Jackson. And I was like, dude, there's just no way I'm going to bench Lamar Jackson. Like, I'm just not going to do it. Like, Lamar Jackson, high round draft pick, has the rushing upside. I'm just not benching him ever, pretty much. And, I mean, it turns out that was the exact opposite move you should have made. I mean, the Cardinals, they lost, but Jacoby Brissett put up tons of points in fantasy. And Lamar did, I mean, he did okay, but he did not do nearly the amount of Jacoby Brissett. So it's not shocking. Again, like when I think back on it, I'm like, bring it back to the golf analogy, you know, there's times where I chunk my pitching wedge, or times where my driver goes off into the woods. By the way, kind of considering, you know, flirting with the idea of doing some golf content in the off season. Let me know if you guys would have any interest in that. I don't know how many golfers we have in this, in the fantasy football world besides myself, but there's times where stuff like that goes awry that you can always trust. And Lamar was the perfect example last week. Like, it just goes to show, though, I'm not going to bench Lamar this week, right? Like, I'm not benching him against the Jets. But there's going to be probably, you know, a good chance that a quarterback that we wouldn't think outproduces him will. But, man, I mean, there's got to be times and there's got to be situations where certain matchups do have to be called out, and I completely ignored the Browns matchup, and that was the wrong move. That was definitely the wrong move. Here's something that I got right, and I want to make sure I get this in now because he's injured now, and we don't know how long he's going to miss time, but I've always said I'm very comfortable being on an island about certain takes, right? Like, I don't have a problem with going against consensus and standing there on an island all by myself for everyone to throw rocks at me, right? Like, everyone's like, oh, you're out of place. Like, nobody else has this guy ranked like you do. You're stupid. You know, you're going to be wrong. It's like, listen, I don't care. Like, you guys come to me to hear my fantasy football takes. Well, I'm going to give it to you straight. Like, you can throw all the rocks and hurl all the insults you want at me. You're still going to get it straight. Because the last thing I want to do is give you BS takes that I don't actually believe in. That's what this segment's all about. So, I'm okay with being on an island. I've always been that guy in my own life. Like, I'm very comfortable having my own opinions and having my own takes. Think for yourself. So, I remember, like, one of the funniest things, because it didn't make sense why no one else saw it like I did, was when I was ranking Josh Jacobs as my running back 6 very consistently through the offseason. Go back and vet this. All my offseason running back rankings videos, go vet it. Josh Jacobs was my running back 6 very consistently and was in, like, the top 12 of my overall rankings. Like, I was big on Josh Jacobs. And, again, I want to make sure I get this in now, because Josh Jacobs will no longer be the running back 6 moving forward because he's going to miss time, at least this week for sure. So that running back 6 ranking is going to go away, but that's exactly where he is today. Did you know that? Like, Josh Jacobs is the running back 6 in fantasy football. Imagine that. Imagine that, me being wrong. Now, I come on here to tell you guys, like, of course I get things wrong. That's part of the deal. But Josh Jacobs was always going to be good. And I don't know why no one saw it my way on this one. Josh Jacobs, workhorse running back. This year, not the greatest offensive line. Historically been a good offensive line. And the guy gets red zone work. What is the issue? Where was ever the issue with Josh Jacobs? That's why I was so comfortable to stand on an island with that one. Like, how crazy are you to not think Josh Jacobs would have worked this year? pretty crazy. And honestly, just going with the flow. Going with what the rest of the community says and just saying, oh, yeah, I'm not going to think for myself. Whatever this person says on YouTube, that's what I'll think because the rest of YouTube thinks this way. And then I've got this one guy who thinks the other way. He must be an idiot. Listen, I'm not trying to toot my own horn right now because, like I said, the proof was in the pudding. Like, all I was doing was actually looking at it. It's not that hard to find out that Josh Jacobs was going to be a stud this year, and that's exactly what he's been. Now, again, wanted to make sure I got that in because he's about to miss at least one game. But, man, I mean, it made no sense to me watching people come after me for my ranking of Josh Jacobs all offseason because I was like, dude, just go look at everything. Who do they have as RB2? And what have they done? And what does this offense like to do? They like to run the freaking ball. I don't know why that was ever a controversial take. I'm hoping, honestly, I'm hoping a lot of people feel ridiculous for thinking that was a dumb take. That's one of those, not you guys. Nobody who doubted Josh Jacobs in the audience. I'm speaking about content creators in this space. Like, you had him ranked as like a RB15, like that's your own fault because that shows me you're clearly not watching the game and you're clearly not paying attention that closely. I'm not talking to anybody in the audience right now. You guys, like, you're not putting out content for people, so you don't have the responsibility of that. But yeah, I mean, Josh Jacobs to me, that was always going to work, and there was no way it wasn't going to work. Now here's the last thing I got wrong. Man, I love doing these, man. It's so fun. Because, like I said, especially when it comes to long season takes, there does need to be a lot of accountability when I get things wrong for the duration of the season because, like, all my offseason predictions obviously weren't as accurate as having Josh Jacobs as RB6 all offseason. I definitely had some misses in there. And I would call this one an egregious miss. Last year, I got, rightfully so, tons of flack for saying I didn't like Saquon Barkley at cost last year. Now, this year, I should have said it because it would have worked. But this past year, obviously, Saquon Barkley was awesome for fantasy football. And so I looked like a complete idiot all season being like, yeah, I don't like the cost of Saquon. But I think this year, this is arguably my Saquon Barkley take. Heading into the season, I'm a big, you guys come to my channel and you hear me talk a lot about like the history of certain matchups, the history of certain players. I like to go into history because I think it matters. And I think it matters what historically happens for fantasy football because a lot of times history repeats itself. And so with George Pickens, I was saying all offseason, don't draft him. Like, George Pickens is not going to work in Dallas. He's on a one-year contract. He's a head case player. He is, yes, on a better offense, but there's lots of history. And this is real, but this is clearly not what's happening right now. There's lots of history of wide receivers leaving Pittsburgh and turning into dust. And I'm not just talking about the obvious example, Antonio Brown. I'm talking about Deontay Johnson. I'm talking about guys you haven't even heard of. Maybe Chase Claypool you've heard of. Maybe Martavis Bryant you've heard of. Maybe Marcus Wheaton you've heard of. Maybe Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, there's a long line of receivers who have left Pittsburgh to nothing. I mean, Mike Wallace back in the day. Like, there's very few receivers who actually left Pittsburgh and had it work better. So I was really big on that all offseason. History matters to me. And so I was looking at Pickens, and I was saying, guys, this is a friggin' landmine. Like, I can tell you for certain, I have exactly 0% of George Pickens in any of my leagues this year. Any of them. And I'm including all of my 150-plus best ball teams. I've got 0% of George Pickens anywhere. So I think arguably that's my worst take of the year because George Pickens has been a freaking monster this year. And I'll be honest here, I'm actually happy to be wrong about this one. I really am. And the reason I am is because I always liked George Pickens as a Steelers fan. I wish, and it's pretty clear to me, especially now, I wish they just held on to him and didn't trade for DK. I'd much rather have Pickens with Aaron Rodgers than DK with Aaron Rodgers. I think it would work out much better because Pickens is a really good player. And he always has been. And I knew all that, but just the history of it really, really steered me away from him. So watching him do what he's doing now, it's not surprising on one hand because he's a great player, but on the other hand, it is surprising to me because the history of Steelers receivers leaving Pittsburgh is not good. So that was one of my worst takes all year, was him coming to town in Dallas and doing what he's doing this year. I get it. In hindsight, it makes perfect sense. Better offense, better quarterback, wide receiver 2 on the team in theory. I mean, honestly, wide receiver 2 on the team, like, opens things up a little bit. I mean, it makes sense looking back on it, but man, I was off of it. I was off of it in a big, big way. I did not want any of my audience to draft him. I thought he was a huge landmine. And people disagreed with me, but a lot of people were like, yeah, I think you're right. So, yeah, Pickens, I think, arguably is my worst take of the year. I really do think that's a solid chance of that. And maybe there's one that I'm forgetting. Please let me know. Like, this whole thing, the reason this is live all the time is because I want to give you guys the opportunity to live stream, like, throw rocks at me. Like, seriously, this is what it's all about. If I'm going to be as cocky as I was about Josh Jacobs, I've got to be just as humble about missing on a guy like George Pickens. That's what this is all for. This is not for me to brag on myself exclusively. There's some of that, but this is also a time for you guys to come in and hop on my back and say, you got this wrong. So, George Pickens was one of the worst, for sure. But that was what I got right and wrong. Appreciate everyone being in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support. And let's go through the super chats. Appreciate y'all's patience. Chico, man, good to see you in here. Appreciate the super chat. Do I trade Josh Allen and David Montgomery for Gibbs and May? My other quarterback is Dart. Other running backs are Judkins, Brown, Hampton, and Hunt. No PPR. No one wants wide receivers. Of course. Yeah, it's a non-PPR format. Wide receivers are non-PPR. I've always said you have to devalue them pretty heavily. So, Josh Allen and Monty for Gibbs and May. Your other quarterback is Dart. So, I said it actually heading into this past week. I did a live stream breaking down teams that I had gotten team breakdown requests for, and I would love to continue to do those. I had a lot of fun doing them. But I said to actually someone who had Josh Allen, listen, I'm willing to trade away Josh Allen because I think it's for the betterment of your team. And we know we can get really good value for Allen. So obviously after this week, it's kind of hard to trade Allen considering what he just did. I mean, but this is always the case for Josh Allen. You can get tons of, not tons of them, but you can get these week-winning weeks from Josh Allen. Like, he can give you 40-plus points on any given week. It just won't happen all the time. And so, seeing what he did this past week was not a shock to me. You're getting Gibbs is obviously great, and getting May. Because, like, this is, I mean, in theory, this is a winning move because May has been really good in fantasy football. Obviously doesn't have the ceiling of Allen because nobody really does except maybe Lamar when he's fully healthy. But your other running backs, Judkins, Chase Brown, Hampton, and Hunt, there clearly is a need there for a running back one. So to me, it does make sense because again, when you're in, especially in a non-PPR league, like these running backs, they're extremely valuable. They're extremely valuable. You could have Jamison Williams and, Jamar Chase, right? And they're just not the same value as running backs are. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is a more valuable player than both of them. So, yes, I think this is a good trade that I would personally take if I was in your position because a non-PPR format, you need running backs, and I worry about those running backs, particularly Chase Brown. Like, he's a guy that a lot of his fantasy upside is created in full PPR leagues and in half PPR where he gets a point or a half point per reception. You don't have that in a non-PPR format, so you need to get a guy who's just really good on the ground. Jahmyr Gibbs obviously has pass-catching upside, but he's also more explosive and just a better overall player than Chase Brown is. So, yeah, I do think this trade makes sense. You're not downgrading at quarterback in a massive way. It's actually a much worse downgrade for the guy who's getting Montgomery. So, yeah, to me, this makes sense. I would take this. Appreciate the super chat. And then Alexis Bolanos, we'll end on you and we'll get out of here. Traded away Bucky for Ladd. My other wide receivers, or my other running backs, are Henry, Javonte Williams, K9, and Benson on IR. And wide receivers are CD, Slayton, and Ladd. Thoughts? Also, I dropped Darnold for Purdy. Yeah, I actually just dropped, or I'm planning on dropping. I put in a waiver claim for Purdy in one of my own leagues. You could actually, this is the beauty of the league sync up tool. I have this league synced up to our site on FS Roundup right now, and you can see my entire team. This is one of them, not my only team, obviously, but I just put in a claim to drop Darnold for Purdy myself. So I can tell you right now, I would have done the same thing for that. You traded away Bucky for Ladd. So your other running backs here, like they're not, like you're going to be fine, right? Like Henry, Javonte Williams, and Kenneth are all going to be, they're going to be fine for you, right? Like Henry and Javonte alone, they're a good running back 1 and 2 combo. They're both probably better off as RB2s, but they're not, neither one of them are going to kill you on a weekly basis, having both those guys. Especially with Henry's schedule coming up, I think it gets much better for Henry moving forward. And your wide receivers, you clearly need a wide receiver. So to me, this is fair value because again, I've said this for a long time. Like Bucky Irving is still an uncomfortable trade piece, and the only reason like I think he's a little more comfortable right now is because he finally returned to practice. But I mean, let's say that he comes back. What does he look like this week? Right? Like if he comes back this week, is he gonna handle 20 plus opportunities? Probably not. If he comes back this week, is he gonna be averaging 5 yards per carry and get like 10 yards of reception? Probably not. So my point in this is either way, Bucky is probably gonna have a down first week or two. So let's say that he returns this week, he probably won't be good enough to play until like week 14. And if he returns the following week, he's probably not good enough to play your first week until your first week back in the fantasy playoffs. And the thing is, if you have Bucky, you're going to play him. So I have no problem with this because I actually, like Ladd to me, like having the game that he had, so what, right? Like all these guys, they did terribly. So to me, it doesn't make any sense to be like backed off of Ladd McConkey just after a bad week from the team. Like, yes, that offensive line is bad. It will plague Justin Herbert, but there's going to be more weeks where Ladd has good weeks. So to me, this was a worthwhile move. Appreciate the super chat. All right, I'm getting a couple more super chats. This is not my tomorrow night, guys, just so y'all know. Tomorrow night, we'll be answering questions. Tonight is just what I got right and wrong, but I will, of course, answer the super chats. Adrian, good to see you in here. Appreciate the super chat. I used Otten for my buy on Tyler Warren, but I noticed someone dropped Mark Andrews. Should I pick him up? Yes. Yes, pick up Mark Andrews. Look at Buck's schedule, Ravens to drop. I have Joe Burrow, ideas to trade. First of all, yes. Pick up Mark Andrews right away. Pick him up right now. Drop K. Otten for him. To me personally, I think that the reason why, like, I held Mark Andrews in one of my leagues that I have him in for the sole reason of when Lamar came back. Like, I held him through the rough weeks without Lamar, and I just put him on my bench and streamed tight ends. And it was well worth it because now, I mean, Mark Andrews has scored in every single game Lamar's been back. So it was well worth it, and I'm blown away that someone in your league actually dropped Mark Andrews. It makes zero sense whatsoever. The guy is a near touchdown lock with Lamar back in the fold. And I mean, think about, like, I think this just highlights the value of Lamar on the field. Think about the tush-push rushing touchdown that Mark Andrews just got against the Browns. If you haven't seen that play, go watch it. It's actually hilarious to watch because I think it was a 4th and 1 with 3 minutes left in the game. And Andrews faked like he was doing the tush-push, rolled out to his right, and ran in like a 35-yard touchdown. Do you think that play would have been possible without Lamar there? Like, the threat of Lamar on the field is what is able to get guys like, this is the reason Henry is such a valuable piece with Lamar. Like, Lamar being there increases the upside of everyone, but I would say none more than Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, the floor increases and the ceiling increases. So yeah, Mark Andrews to me, drop Otten and pick up Andrews. Like, this makes no sense for anyone to drop him. The Bucs schedule Ravens to drop. I'm not sure what you're asking here, to be honest with you. Are you asking me about the Bucs defense and the Ravens defense? I mean, let's pull up the Bucs schedule really quick. I do know this. When it came to my playoff rankings for defenses, mostly still the same. Nobody's really been changed to a drastic level from the video I put out just a couple weeks ago. Like, that still stands pretty strong. I'll do an update here in a couple weeks, but as of right now, it stands pretty strong. Yeah, I mean, the Falcons moving forward, they've obviously got the Rams, but outside of that, their schedule lightens up pretty significantly. They get the Cardinals, they get the Saints, they get the Falcons, the Panthers, the Dolphins. Like, they've got a lot of good teams there on there. And listen, the Bucs defense is good. I will stand by that. I do believe they have a good defense. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they've got some injuries on the defense right now. So if this is a defense question, I probably still prefer them over the Ravens, because the Ravens, on the other hand, like, their defense, I still don't completely trust them to do well against everybody. They do have the Jets, the Bengals, the Steelers, the Bengals again, the Patriots, and then the Packers. So, like, those last couple of weeks for the Ravens defense, not great. So yeah, if this is a defense question, I'm still sticking with the Bucs defense for sure. I have Joe Burrow, ideas to trade. So yeah, when it comes to Burrow, right, like, everything comes down to what you can get for maximum value. Because this is a player that, like, I said this, I don't remember what video, but, the Bengals have 7 losses now. Now they're facing the New England Patriots this week without Jamar Chase. What are the chances that they win against the Patriots? And if they lose, they'll be an 8-loss team. So Joe Burrow, as far as we know, has a Week 13 target return date, right? What does it take for Joe Burrow to look at it again and say to himself, why do I want to come back this year? Like, why don't I just take it off, completely eliminate the risk of re-injury and just make sure I'm right for next season? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. It's kind of the Bucky Irving argument to me, which is that if you can trade him away for good value, do it. Because Burrow, to me, is not a lock to play. So I think that what it comes down to with Burrow is that there's a lot of people who would be excited to have him, right? Like, a lot of people are dealing with backup quarterbacks and things of that nature, bye weeks at certain quarterback positions, underperformances with guys like Bo Nix. There's a lot of guys that have just not performed up to par. And so I do think that, like, trading away a Burrow for an RB2 would make a lot of sense. Like, getting a running back like, Quinshon Judkins or Derrick Henry or Javonte Williams or Chase Brown, Jalen Warren, like, those guys make a lot of sense to me. Wide receiver 2s, guys like Jamison Williams, guys like Roma Dunze, Devonta Smith. Those are a lot of ideas that make sense to me, because essentially what we want to try to do here is you don't need Burrow right now, right? Like, you've obviously got a quarterback. And Adrian, if I'm remembering correctly, your record's pretty sweet. So, like, it's not like you need Burrow for the stretch. Someone else needs him more than you are. And the idea of Burrow is what's getting him the value right now. So I would capitalize that, shoot for a running back 2, like I said, shoot for a wide receiver 2, like we talked about. Those are all moves that make a lot of sense to me. Appreciate the super chat, man. Good to see you in here. Rav Aji, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Dropping Tez JHO. First, Michael Wilson, 2 Mooney, or vice versa. You're dropping Tez Johnson. I'll be honest here. I don't think I would drop Tez for Mooney. Michael Wilson makes sense, especially if you need a win this week, because I think Michael Wilson. I'm not convinced that Marvin comes back. I mean, Marvin, like, I remember Joe Burrow had appendicitis, and he had to get his appendix burst before like 2022 season, if I'm remembering correctly. And I mean, he was out for weeks. So like the idea that Marvin comes back this week is kind of weird. I would pick up if you need to win this week. Like Michael Wilson makes a lot of sense. I am not convinced that Mooney has much value. I mean, the game that we saw Kirk Cousins play in this year against the Dolphins was abysmal. So to me, it doesn't. I don't really feel like I've got much stake in Mooney being a really good play just because Drake London's out. I mean, London missed that game that Kirk played in as well, and Mooney got nothing done. So I'd rather see it before I spend a priority waiver ad on Mooney. To be honest with you, like I think that Michael Wilson, if you need to play this week, it makes sense. But I'm a little against dropping Tez. Like if this is a long season argument, I'm a little against that. Godwin, we don't know when he's coming back yet. And to be honest with you, when Marvin comes back, Michael Wilson probably goes back to the role that he's always had, which is distant wide receiver 2. And Mooney, again, is just a guy that I'm not trusting right now. Like Tez on a weekly basis, yeah, last week wasn't good, but it was also in a kind of nasty, windy game. Tez Johnson, I think, is going to have more upside weeks. So, like, if this is a long-term move, I wouldn't prefer to do that. Appreciate the super chat. B. Precua 515. Appreciate the super chat. Third place facing the number 1 team full PPR. Lost Chase to suspension and Harvey to bye. Start 2, Spears, Tootin, Mooney, Gainwell. Also, Raiders, Patriots, or Atlanta's defense. So, yeah, having Chase. Oh, God. Jamar Chase, man. What are you doing? The lying part was the worst, right? Because it's like everyone saw what you did. Like, what are you doing, man? It's stupid. It's stupid. Yeah, if I had to pick 2 out of these, I'm leaning, and again, it's still early in the week. Things could be changed. But to me right now, I would lean towards Tootin and Mooney. Those would be the 2 guys I'm leaning towards. You know, Spears, ordinarily, I would lean towards him. But against the Seahawks this week, like, I've got very little confidence in playing Spears for any sort of upside. At least with Mooney, like, he does get the opportunity to play the Saints. So it could work out well in his favor without London there. But Mooney, I don't view as I was just answering a question about Mooney. Like, I don't view Mooney as like a really high-end play this week. I'd rather see it and wait, but you are in dire situations. So, yeah, to me, Tootin is a guy that I would play because, I mean, he really did look like the RB1 for a little bit. They're doing kind of a hot hand thing in Jacksonville. I think he's been involved enough to justify playing, so I do consider Tootin to be a solid play. And then, yeah, like I said, my whole rationale for going with Mooney over Spears is because of matchup. And Gainwell, I think Gainwell is a fine guy to consider as well over Tyjae Spears. But if Warren plays, I'll probably lean against playing Gainwell. So I'll go with Tootin and Mooney for now. Appreciate the super chat. M. Kells, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Here's what we'll end. Half PPR thin at wide receiver. Trade Charbonnet for Christian Watson. Feels like pretty fair value. Charbonnet to me is a top 30 running back rest of season. I just did the rest of season running back rankings yesterday. I stick by that. I do still think he's going to have games with 12 to 13 fantasy points, but he'll also give you games where he gives you like 3 or 4 points. So I think of Christian Watson as kind of that same level floor and a higher ceiling. Like Watson can give you what he gave you this past week, which is 20 plus points. And I do think that if you look at Green Bay, he's been their most effective receiver since he came back. Really. I mean, like, Romeo Doubs has had, like, several bad games. He hasn't really been the player that can give you upside weeks since that, like, big explosion game that he had. I don't even remember. Was it the Cowboys, maybe? Yeah, I think it was the Cowboys where he had, like, a hat trick. Yeah, to me, it feels like pretty fair value. It does feel like pretty fair value. I think I would take it, especially if you're thin at wide receiver. Christian Watson will step in and give you some good games. Appreciate the super chat. All right, we're going to get out of here. And, yeah, I hope everybody enjoys what I got right and wrong. Appreciate y'all being in here. B. Prekua said, forgot the second part of your question. Put it in really quick and we'll get it answered. But yeah, no, if you guys have interest in watching golf content from me this offseason, let me know. Because I'm kind of toiling with that idea just so you guys can see how bad I am at golf. And yeah, if you do support me and you want to give support to the channel, go join the premium subscription on our site, FS Roundup, or just browse around with numbers, man. I mean, all the numbers are free. Start, sit, polls are free to do, free to vote on them. So whatever you guys want to do to support me, it really helps. And yeah, I'll wait a second here for your question. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Raiders, Patriots, or Atlanta's defense. Sorry about that. So, yeah, as of right now, like, a lot of people are questioning me for leaving out the Falcons defense this week. Listen, you guys might be right. The way I look at this is, to me, the Falcons defense, if their offense can't move the ball, this feels like a disaster. Like, they're already going down the wrong path. Their season's already in the tubes. So to me, I don't look at the Falcons as like this really good play, even though it's the Saints. Like, the Saints did put up points the last time they played, and they're just off a bye week. So, like, they're getting healthier. The Falcons are in the wrong direction. Their offense is losing guys fast. Their defense is losing guys. Like, the Falcons aren't far outside my top 12, but they're not in it. And I don't really, unless something drastic changes to anybody, I don't see them sneaking in at any point this week. I don't envision myself revisiting my defense rankings on Thursday and being like, you know what? The Falcons are too low. I'm going to put them higher. Like, something has to change for me to do that. So for me, it's between the Raiders and the Patriots. And I get how crazy it sounds to play the Raiders, considering they're taking on the Browns. But yeah, I mean, to me personally, like, I think the Browns are terrible offensively. Like, I know the Raiders suck, and it was in a primetime standalone game, so everyone got to see how bad the Raiders are. But let's face it, a couple things happened. They played the Dallas Cowboys offense, number one. And number two, it was in a primetime standalone game. Well, what you didn't see was the Browns and how bad they looked against the Ravens defense, which isn't as good. Maybe they're better than the Cowboys defense. But I will say, like, I don't think of them as, like, a great defense that the Browns couldn't have moved the ball on. Now, this week it's Shedeur Sanders, probably. And Shedeur, if you didn't watch him, he looked bad too. Like, he was not much better than Gabriel. He probably has more juice and can push the ball down the field more, but he holds on to the ball forever. He makes mistakes. Like, this is a prime scenario. And mind you this, the Raiders, the last time they played on primetime, which was just under 2 weeks ago, they kind of handled the Broncos offense. So this defense, I do think, can do well in certain matchups. The Broncos and the Raiders and the Patriots are close enough in my rankings to where I feel like you could go with a gut call. But to me, I'm leaning towards the Raiders. Like, to me, the Raiders are the best play. So I would personally go with the Raiders. Again, appreciate the super chat. Sorry I missed that second part. And yeah, we'll get out of here on that. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all being here tonight. Like the video, subscribe to the channel on your way out. Check out FS Roundup. Do a start sit poll for free. Check out the numbers for free. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Appreciate you guys.